Hi, everyone. Welcome to a conversation on virtual experiences held by Captivate Exhibits and Visual Communications. I'm Todd Daly. I am the VP of Creative for Visual Communications, and I'm kind of happy to take you on this journey today. So we have a nice deck put together that really takes us through the opportunities that are out there within the virtual experience environment and gives you just kind of a generalized understanding of what the different options are, what makes each one appropriate maybe for you, and gives you just a general broad scope understanding of how they differ from one another. If you guys want to have any deeper dive conversations, we're happy to set up a time to be able to have a private one-on-one call where we can talk about the opportunities that are available to you and what makes most sense. But this will give you a good understanding. So, why virtual? As a lot of people continue to think about what the new normal is, there are a lot of different options out there. We as a company, combined with Captivate Exhibits, want to be able to provide you with someone that you can refer back to that gives you minimal resistance. Really, we want to be able to take the project from start to finish, but we play well with others. So if you have other agencies of record, we're happy to work as a team to be able to come up with something that you can really be proud of. There are a lot of different nuances that go along with these types of virtual experiences, and being able to really focus on the ROI, return on investment for you, and the return on experience for your attendees is super important. So we're happy to be able to do that. We want to provide them maximum return, and really that's all about thinking about engagement. My standard soapbox that I like to get up on is all about value and being able to provide value for attendees as they go through these virtual experiences. We want to make sure that it's engaging, that it really provides a value to them, so that maybe they register for 10 of these things a week, or at least a couple of these things a week. We want them to feel like this is one of the experiences that they can't miss. So we're always trying to think about how do we increase engagement at touch points so that they can find more value out of this. The other cool thing about virtual experiences is that obviously you have the ability to gather metrics in a way that's new to these types of interactions. So with physical trade shows or any type of three-dimensional activation, you never really knew whether somebody was going to come in from the left, the right, the top, the bottom. You never really could focus them unless you were going to ring your booth and walls. So with these types of virtual experiences, really you have an unprecedented way to be able to continue that conversation and to be able to allow people to go down a consistent pathway so you can understand where they're going to go. If you have 6 brand propositions that you want to be able to communicate, you have the ability to communicate all 6 of those in one nice streamlined way. And then also the metrics that come along with that are second to none as well. You can understand from heat mapping how many people go to each area, and what you can do with those metrics afterwards is be able to apply them to any future events that you're going to have so that you can get the best focus. All of these experiences are customizable. We tend to not be in the business of being able to provide just a standard stock solution. We want to make sure that our companies understand that and our brands understand that we are going to provide them with a unique solution that is focused specifically towards them. We are trying to really get the most bang for your buck out of looking at the audience that you are going to try to speak to, and making sure that we focus the experience towards that. Virtual solutions offer a lot of opportunities, like I said, but really the digital strategy that we're going to suggest for you starts with your story. And you'll hear the word story a lot in my presentation, because really we consider ourselves storytellers. We're really trying to find a way to create that unique brand proposition that you have as a company, or if you're an agency that your client has, and to be able to turn that into something that is really dynamic, that happens within a virtual experience. So it's not just something that we're trying to create where it's just a standard stock solution. The services that we can provide are very wide spread. So anything from marketing to content creation for experiences to the actual virtual events themselves. We're happy to be able to help out with any of those that we possibly can. The copywriting, event branding, thinking about the scripts for events themselves, any kind of experiential initiatives which tend to push that virtual experience past just the idea that somebody's looking at a screen. Any type of content creation. Another great thing is that you can leverage existing content for companies as well, and that tends to lead to a great return on investment. Virtual events, obviously we want to help with the virtual trade show support, but even if that's just populating the show platform that the show is going to provide for you, if you're doing something that's going to replace a trade show, we can help with a lot of that as well. Then thinking about how do we do webinars to increase audience participation, how do we think about engagement and analytics, and then if the event is going to go past the timeline of a virtual show, thinking about registration management as well, so that we can be able to get all of the information from the people who are attending. There's multiple types of virtual experiences that you can create. In general, they're broken up into 2 different types of experiences, and a third that's kind of a combination of the 2. The idea of a live event can include things like live streams, webinars, virtual events, virtual meetings, and really there's an acute time frame that goes along generally with these live solutions, where it's a Thursday from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., but it starts and it ends at a very particular time. And that gives you the ability to create something that really has momentum that you can build buzz around. But it also comes with an acute level of stress. Also, you have to make sure that people get there during that time, or else you don't have the ability to interact with them. It also tends to be a little bit less personal because you're creating something where a bunch of people come to. It's more the macro engagement style as opposed to anything else. So on demand is a little different type of an experience from that. It can be anything from simple websites all the way up to through full 360 virtual experiences and gamified solutions. That's something that usually is around for a little bit longer. The time frame for that can be anywhere from 1 month to 12 months. We have clients who want to really just use it as a way for their sales team to stay in front of their customers, whether it is existing or potential. Then there's the hybrid solution, which really combines both of those experiences, using the live event as a way to create that critical mass, that really interesting buzz, but then utilizing the on-demand solution as a way to be able to create that little bit deeper engagement with technology and the ability to tell a story. So you can do some interesting things with the combination of those 2. We're not going to go through all of this today, but the idea of a live solution can be broken up into a number of different levels, simplest of being a live stream all the way up into these studio broadcasts and virtual meetings. You can do some really interesting things with them. On demand, also same general spread for level of complexity. So digital sales tools can be things just like simple websites, which we'll show you some examples of in the near future, as well as these going all the way up into the 360 experiences and interactive games. The process is very similar to what you've been used to if you've been through any form of creative process with either Captivate or Visual. We start out with a discovery phase where we think about your goals and what do you really want to try to accomplish. We think about the audience also that you're speaking to and what they will accommodate. There are certain audiences that really do tend to gravitate towards the technological integration that we're talking about here. There are other audiences that maybe don't necessarily have the technological savvy that others might. So we always want to think about what level they're at so that we can provide something that's either as simple or as complex as possible, depending upon what they can accommodate. We also think about the competition and any available platforms that might be out there. So if the show management is going to provide a certain level of integration, then we want to be able to take best advantage of that and allow you to focus your resources on what is really important for you. Then we think about the planning side of it, where we talk about the strategy for the solution itself, developing a sitemap so that we can understand if the flow is proper for what we've created, defining the scope and understanding what the KPIs are, the key performance indicators for any data tracking that we're going to try to get in there, or any kind of analytics that we're going to try to develop for you. In the design section, that's where we start to get into the actual creative side of it. You'll see what the aesthetic is, what we want the space or experience to feel like. How do we incorporate any kind of media that you have that's existing? We start to analyze all these pieces to be able to make sure that it comes across as a cohesive and comprehensive solution, as opposed to just a number of disparate elements that don't combine into one really truly efficient and effective media. The develop side of it, then we think about how do we build the microsite on a chosen platform or any type of experience that you're going to try to create if it's not a microsite. How do we think about developing custom digital experiences, work on the infrastructure, really set up technical requirements. This is where we start to get into the actual process of how do people interact with it. Is it a guided solution? Is it a standalone solution? If it's guided, you want to think about how do people utilize the space. And start to train some of your brand representatives to be able to use it. And then we launch it. We start to publish the microsite and the custom domain name. We obviously can moderate live discussions and Q&A, depending upon if it's a webinar, broadcast it live to your audience. And of course, depending upon whether it's a live or on-demand solution, that changes how that launch column really works. And then we think about tracking, where we take all of those metrics that we talked about in the beginning. We make sure we measure all of those pieces, and then we can turn that into something actionable for your sales team so that they can then go back and turn this into viable sales or leads, depending upon what you're looking for. Digital events, there are certain elements and aspects of it that are very similar to physical events. You want to make sure you think about the number of different touch points that you have within the experience. We want to think about both the pre-event and the post-event equally as importantly as the actual live event. Being able to get additional touch points, being able to think about that value that we talked about in the beginning of this presentation. How do we really drive that through the course of the experience? How do we make sure that this is something that's seen as an absolute must-have, a must-attend for the people who are going to come to this experience? Microsites are a really great way to be able to accommodate this. We found that a lot of show management, if you are trying to replace a physical show with a virtual, a lot of show management companies are allowing for the integration of microsites. We've seen a very small percentage of shows that won't allow this. So the integration of a microsite can happen in a number of different ways, but it's a great way to be able to accommodate being able to create something a little bit unique and special. And we'll show you some case studies in the next few pages with regards to what we're trying to create. These are infinitely customizable. You can basically create whatever you want. Another great thing about virtual experiences is if you had 20 by 20 on the show floor before, nobody really cares if you go up to a 24 by 24 or a 30 by 30. The experience itself can be whatever you want it to be. We even have a number of different companies who have talked to us, and we've developed strategies for them where instead of trying to recreate a physical trade show environment, really what we're doing now is bringing brand campaigns to life. We're thinking about how can we better create a virtual experience where it doesn't necessarily rely on the incorporation of physical architecture as a way to be able to tell that story. Nobody cares if there's a hanging sign anymore because you don't see it from super far away. You don't have to draw people to it. They're already there. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of modify your strategy to be able to help tell a story. Now, as I said, this is we're going to go through a few case studies right now. There's a number of different ways to be able to integrate a customized experience into a microsite. In the upper left-hand corner here, you'll see that we developed a solution for ScanSource. The show management for Infocom developed this type of an integration for their Infocom virtual experience. Now, Infocom went virtual, and by the time it went virtual, we already had the ScanSource exhibit already designed, already engineered and ready to be built. So ScanSource said, hey, you know, what we'd like to do is create a virtual experience using our the physical components that you've already taken and developed for us, maybe modify a few different things and be able to enhance that story a little bit. So we took their space, we made it a little bit larger so that the flow could be a little bit more clean and easy. And we turned that into a virtual experience. You know, the fun thing about that is that it does give us the opportunity to be able to create something that's a little bit more unique based upon the type of environment that we want to engage with. So I'm going to pull up the ScanSource experience right now, and we can actually go through it. Like I mentioned before, there are a number of different ways that you can engage with the show management to be able to integrate a microsite. The first one, very simply, is if they just give you area for text and to embed a URL, you can embed this customized URL into the experience itself. That gives you the ability to just allow attendees to click on that URL. It opens up a separate window, and then they can interact with the space. Some shows will actually put a little button that says access our virtual experience into their platform so that people know that if I click there, I'm going to open up something a little bit different. That works out very well. They tend to be a little bit more of the progressive shows. And then even more progressive shows are allowing people to entirely skip the platform side developed by the show because doesn't necessarily give you the best return on investment, and allow people to, when I click the logo for, let's just say ScanSource, it automatically opens up this microsite and allows them to tell their story entirely through the use of a microsite, which tends to be a great way to be able to do it. So this ScanSource exhibit was something that we developed for them. It was very cost effective because the majority of the assets were already developed. It does allow us to integrate some introductory videos. Now, again, this was right in the beginning of the COVID experience. So people were still kind of at home, still trying to figure out what they're doing. This particular webcam video was developed by this senior executive at ScanSource, and it was a great way for them to be able to tell their story. We tend to have upped the production values a little bit in the last few months since Infocom, but it's still a nice way to be able to have a conversation with people, welcome them to the space, and really tell them and tell them about ScanSource's commitment to the industry. As you click into the experience then, by that big flashing arrow, then you have the ability to go to each of these stations. Now, ScanSource has a very linear communication of information. And this is what I was talking about before. You have the ability to focus on that. So as I go to the first station, it literally will take you from one to the next, allowing you to go to the next stop and saying step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through 8. Now, the cool part about this, like I said, is that it was a series of existing architectural solutions, which gives us that opportunity to be able to make a great return on investment for our client. As I go back to this stop number 1, I can click on this flashing eye here, which gives me a little bit more ability to provide them with information and talk about their remote workforce solutions, a little bit of text up here, and then the ability to download a couple different things here. I can even open up a video. Again, these were all existing assets that were just retasked and used in a way that made it very efficient for them to create this experience. I can go to the next stop. Again, talks about their Team Plus solution. And then as I look around, I can see all of the different stops that are available to me. The thing that I liked most about this particular design was going over to the suppliers section, where they put in here the ability to access individual suppliers that they've partnered with. So people can see all of the different partners that they incorporate into their space and how well they play with others. And that's a nice talk track for them to be able to have. So going back into the presentation a little bit, we also did a really nice virtual experience for Ascendus. Now, the upper left-hand corner is what show management was going to provide. It was the ability to create this semi-customizable virtual space. You had the ability to pick from a couple different options and then customize it with some different colors, and obviously add in your logo and graphics and some customized videos and banners. Again, you're not going to look too much different than your competitors at that point. So Ascendus said, we absolutely don't want to do that. So they actually opted out of doing this entire type of a virtual experience. But when you went into the virtual experiences, the virtual show floor for this particular show, which was the Magic Foundation, when you clicked on their logo, it automatically brought up the virtual experience that we wanted to create for them. And that gave us a nice opportunity to be able to do something just a little bit different. And I'll bring that up as well. You know, this opportunity was something that we were really excited about because it did give us a great ability to think about not necessarily how we use architecture, but how we bring a brand campaign to life. As I click on this, it lets me kind of jump into this experience. And as you look at this space, you can see that I have the ability to look around, see a nice little welcome from Ascendus Pharmaceuticals, and then see that I have 3 different areas that I can look at. I can either look at the Kids Science Trivia Challenge, Introducing Ascendus, or the GHD Caregiver Community. So let's start out there. As I click on this, what we did was we took existing assets that an agency had provided to us, and we used those to be able to create this semi-3-dimensional space where I can look around and I can kind of view this entire area in a really interesting and unique way. It lets me have just that little bit of interactivity, which separated us from the other types of companies that were out there. I can click on this register piece here, which can bring up individual forms, which is a nice way for us to be able to get to fill out their first KPI for us, which was they wanted to be able to grow the GHD community. They wanted as many people to fill out this form as possible, and they had some tremendous success with that. So it gives us a nice way to be able to integrate a lot of different types of experiences into this technology. Now, as I said, this is really less about utilizing architecture to tell a story and more about how do I tell the story inherently in the space. So thinking about this Transcon technology and how we incorporated that, this was just a general introductory video. This entire space was just supposed to introduce Ascendus Pharmaceutical to the audience and talk about what really makes Ascendus different. So we offered up the opportunity to have the pipeline on the left here, Transcon here, and then a little bit more of a deep dive into the Transcon on the right-hand side. You know, this is probably and arguably the most interesting part of it. We really loved the campaign that the agency had put together with regards to all of these little kids that were kind of illustrated. We loved this. So we wanted to be able to find a way to bring that to life. So we incorporated some gamification into this scenario where we utilized the idea of a trivia challenge. It offers up 6 multiple choice scenario questions, and I'll just get right into it. but it utilizes the existing assets that the agency had put together. Now, we developed a few more assets just to be able to make this feel a little bit more unique and interesting within the space. We put them in playful scenarios within the environment, but it's a nice opportunity to utilize something and to really allow for a campaign to be able to tell the story as opposed to just the platform itself. So it's a little bit of a nice environment to be able to integrate into your space. As you click on question 1, it gives you the opportunity to answer. Let's just say it's true. They don't really care whether you're right or wrong. It just wants you to answer the question, and then it gives you a little bit of a description about why you were right or wrong along the bottom. And then it counts using tokens and these interesting little icons here, how many questions you've gone through. Now, the goal there is to be able to allow people to answer all of these questions and to be able to basically go through this entire experience. And if you fulfill that, then you were given the right to be able to download a customized PDF that utilized these brand characters and created a virtual coloring book that children, because that was the primary audience for this particular show, could have their parents print out and they could color. So it was a nice way for us to be able to tie in that return into it. So that's Ascendus. The next case study was CSL Behring. This was also a show for children. This was the National Hemophilia Foundation, the NHF show. This one we took and created an entirely new experience for CSL Behring. But this one was also canceled a little bit late in the process. So we had already planned for the physical space to be able to be developed with some experiential marketing components along with it. We also came up with some thematic elements because that is a great way to be able to increase touch points as you go through the process. So the NHF experience incorporated this tagline of "Be Amazing," which we helped to develop for CSL as a way for them to be able to tell the story of, hey kids, even though you're going through these challenges, you still can be amazing. This is a really cool space. You want to come see it. So we had already hired some children magicians to be able to come to the space. They had been featured on America's Got Talent, and it was something that we were really looking forward to. It was going to be a really great presentation within the physical space of the NHF exhibit for CSL Behring. And when NHF went full virtual, we still wanted to bring a little bit of that passion into the space. So we actually engaged the magicians again and said, hey, we can't have you actually come to the space, but what we'd like for you to do is create a number of different magic tricks for us to be able to showcase within our environment, our virtual environment. So they videotaped a few magic tricks for us to be able to show within that space. And the goal here was to be able to create these product areas where kids could go and learn a little bit more about the product itself. But when they went to each of these product areas, they were given the opportunity to see an additional magic trick that the children magicians had performed. This was a great way for us to be able to entice people to go from stop to stop to stop. If you went to all 3 of the areas, then at the end of that experience, you were also given the opportunity to download a 90-minute video that was something that taught kids how to do the magic tricks that they had just seen. So that was kind of special for them as well. We also incorporated a raffle into this space. So we just wanted to be able to create a number of different touch points, a number of different engagement opportunities within the environments to be able to help tell that story. You know, we like to say that there are scalable solutions basically for any type of experience you want to create. So that includes the goal, the budget, the timeline. Obviously, timeline, budget, and goals are the 3 most important things that you want to think about as you go through the process. And being able to balance those is what we work most hard on as we go through these experiences. So thinking about we put a number of 6 different experiences down here. Each one has a different level of complexity. So thinking about digital sales tools, video journeys, interactive experiences, physical experiences, the webinars and virtual events, and then enhanced virtual broadcasts. We're going to go through just a number of different things. Now, I want to just fair warning, we didn't create all of these. We just thought that they were really cool. One example is this website. We love it. I think this is a really cool and interesting experience. It's just a website, but it is a great linear way to tell a story. If you wanted to create a very simple virtual experience, this is a great way to be able to communicate that type of an environment. So just has a little bit of simple animation, as you saw. As I move down the space, it has some things that slide in from the left, from the right, and then there's this great flashing dot that says start here. It entices me to be able to click on that and gives me, as the attendee, the ability to dig a little bit deeper into the type of information that I want to get from this virtual experience. And as I click close, then it starts flashing on the next one. Even going so far as to being able to schedule appointments. This is just a nice way to be able to frame information in a linear pathway so that you can make sure that everybody gets the information that you want them to receive. Now, obviously, I can jump all the way to the end if I want, but it really entices you to be able to visit all of those areas and get the information. And then it ends with this contact us piece. So there's a little bit of a call to action and gives you that, that opportunity to be able to follow up. The second level is the video journey. And, we use the Samsung exhibit at the Kitchen and Bath Show as a way to be able to frame a lot of these experiences. It's a nice case study that we developed because we did do a number of different interactive experiences for this particular exhibit. Now, this one is just something that's very simple. It is literally just an animated fly around and fly through, but you can see that it's pretty dynamic, right? It leads you through a tour of a physical space, of a physical virtual space, of a real virtual space, and gives you that opportunity to be able to see how a three-dimensional environment can still tell a story. Obviously, there are graphics on walls, even going so far as to being able to say, listen, as I move around to the front of this space, there are still dynamic content pieces that can happen within the environment. So I can have a video wall up top that's a ribbon that still tells a story. I can have the content on screens change. It can show individual components. Now, this is a dynamic experience, but it's not necessarily interactive. There's not much that I can do with this to make it super interactive. Now, that's okay. A lot of companies that we've worked with will take this and have us add post-production pop-ups over the top of it, so I can call out specific product details if I want to pause on any one particular area, or they'll give the opportunity to be able to just watch this, and this might be the enticement for them to go to a different type of virtual experience. So maybe this is shared on social media saying something along the lines of, hey, come see the cool thing that we're going to show you at our trade show. So it offers up a number of different opportunities there. Obviously, there are other interactive digital solutions as well. We already went over the Send Us at Magic and the Scan Source at Infocom examples. But just thinking about this Samsung at the Kitchen and Bath Show, we developed this as an entirely virtual solution as well. Now, the fun thing about this is that you can do all of the same things that we saw on that virtual fly-through within that space. You can incorporate a lot of the content over the top. But you can take this even further. This is a more dynamic and interactive solution. This is truly interactive. It allows the attendee, whether the attendee is in a guided experience or on a self-guided experience, the ability to interact a little bit deeper with content. So this particular solution right here that you're looking at in this space right here was all about the Samsung SmartThings IoT platform. So it gave the attendee the ability to click on an individual area and bring up either the graphic that they see on the wall there, just so you can see that a little bit more clearly. It can bring up external websites. You can see that this opened up the external website on Samsung.com and gave me the ability to just go straight to the website if I wanted to buy it, or even just get the technical specs on it. It gives me a nice opportunity there. Or if I wanted to, it can also bring up, sorry, this is kind of loud.
There's potential in your everyday things. Imagine if you
can bring up existing content, ways that you can tell a story about the type of environment that you're going to see in this particular SmartThings IoT platform. Or you can click on this here, any other type of product that we want to make interactive, and bring up an individual gallery so that people can understand a little bit more about what's happening within the space. So, but like you see, it can do a number of different things. Even if you wanted to think about how, if I went over to this Samsung Family Hub area, I can click on this video wall and it'll bring up Twitter. Now, we did this physical exhibit for Samsung at the Kitchen and Bath Show in this past February. And we had a number of different hashtags that we developed for them. And so we can link back to Twitter to be able to enhance that story or to bring up any individual conversations that were incorporated into a social media campaign here as well. So this is an exciting thing for us because we love the ability to turn these into interactive experiences. Now, the fun part is that you can also, depending upon how you want to frame this, you can actually create an interactive physical exhibit too, where you're incorporating the use of technology, but to be able to tell the story about a physical space. So we have a lot of clients that come to us and say, hey, one in particular came to us and said, hey, I have this production facility, and when I take people through this production facility, I have an 85% closure ratio. When I don't, it's 30. So I'd still really like to be able to take people through this this physical space that I have developed, which does such a good job at telling the story without even really working too hard at it. Now, we took this virtual tour at the, or we developed this virtual tour at the Kitchen and Bath Show. We took a number of 360-degree photos, and it gives us a nice opportunity to still be able to move through the space while I want to tell a story. You can do the same thing as with the virtual one, where you can bring up individual hotspots. Those can be downloadable PDFs, access to graphics, access to videos, external websites, really whatever you want to your heart's content. But you can see that there's a nice opportunity for us to still be able to tell a story there, whether it's virtual or physical. So you have a nice opportunity to be able to create environments that still tells your brand story in any way you want. And again, I can use this space as a storytelling medium to be able to move through an environment and think about how I can integrate any type of technology into this virtual experience. We even have a couple clients who are taking and utilizing physical production facilities, doing 360 photo tours of the actual space, and then say taking a certain section of it that they want to be updatable a little bit more easily, and turning that into a virtual, so combining the virtual and physical into one comprehensive tour. Obviously, webinars and virtual events are something that we focus on as well. You have a great opportunity to be able to tell a story utilizing live video as a way to be able to bring on engaging speakers and to be able to create a little bit more of that critical mass that I was talking about in the beginning. This obviously is a live experience, something that we need to be able to do with a finite time frame. Obviously, you're not going to keep a physical speaker there for 9 months. But nevertheless, you have the ability to create this really great experience where you can have engagement with questions along the right-hand side. You can also have some polling opportunities down here, access to any type of background information or even downloadable content through a number of different ways. At Captivate and Visual, we are platform agnostic. So we really focus on the idea that it's all about what the client wants to accomplish. We don't have any one standardized platform that we use, because we want to pick the right platform that works for the client and the brand in particular. So if there's a platform that maybe has too many bells and whistles and might be a little bit too expensive for what this particular client is trying to accommodate, we don't want to have to spec that platform just because we have it and we use that specifically. We want to be able to pick maybe a simpler platform that does the job a little bit more efficiently if they don't need all those bells and whistles. And then thinking about how you can enhance these types of experience even further, you have the ability to develop this enhanced virtual broadcast, right? So the idea that there's maybe a 40-foot green screen here, and it's 40 feet tall as well. So this green screen really takes up the entirety of a studio, so that you can use that opportunity to be able to create an entirely virtual experience behind a live presenter, just like you see in the bottom image or in the center image here. So there's some nice opportunities to be able to think about, how do you really want to tell your story? So do you want to create a virtual experience where the presenter is in a museum, and that's how you tell the story of your product or brand? Do you want to be inside the human body, so you can bring an MOA video to life? And do you want to be able to think about how they're on the surface of the moon? Do you want to be able to think about how they're in a virtual representation of a physical production facility? There's a number of different ways that you can accommodate being able to tell a story here. And that is a nice thing to be able to just think about creatively from our side. We want to be able to obviously make these unique experiences. Some of the other cool things that you can do with that, obviously you can see that our gentleman here is still on the right-hand side. He's on his green screen. This young lady here on his left, or on the left, is actually on a green screen as well, but in an entirely remote location. So maybe you could have VIPs from across the country or across the world really cast into this type of an experience is really attractive. And so there's a lot of different flexibility pieces here. You can incorporate augmented reality into these environments in a way that's second to none, especially as you see here. You know, they're creating the opportunity to be able to talk about how you can see it on a tablet, you can see it on a mobile phone, you can see it on a computer. There's a number of different ways that you can incorporate a conversation here. Now, enhancement options are not to be discounted. There's a lot of different ways that you can enhance these scenarios as well. Really, any of the solutions that we've shown you can have enhancements added to them, which add a number of different technological benefits. So some of the solutions that we showed you are already VR ready. So they give you that opportunity to be able to create a virtual reality experience for any type of attendee who can actually handle that type of a technological integration. So we want to make sure that your audience is appropriate for VR. We don't suggest it for everyone, but you can incorporate maybe some Google Cardboard type solutions where you entirely brand the piece, you send it home to the attendees ahead of time. And when you get into the virtual experience, it gives you, or into get into the virtual experience, it gives you that opportunity to be able to pop this thing open. You can put your own personal device in there, your personal mobile device in there, shut it after you've gone to a website, and then you put it up to your eyes and you can use it as a virtual reality headset. Now, it's not as technologically advanced as some of the other headsets that are out there, but it gives you a nice opportunity to create a kind of a truly immersive environment. There are some other techno gadgets that you can use that really do add some experiential pieces too. So if you wanted to implement augmented reality into it, it's a very natural thing to be able to do. Really, all you do is integrate an augmented reality tag into the virtual experience, and then an attendee can take their phone, scan that tag that's on your computer screen, and then be able to utilize their own mobile device to be able to integrate with a world that you've created in a virtual way. You can also do some cool things with networking and continued education. So there are live one-on-one chat messaging. Obviously, you can do peer-to-peer chats as well, any types of community forums. You can do medical education type experiences. You can do CME if you want to do continuing medical credits. You can do a lot of different types of things as you go through this type of process. It's just about about what you want to get out of the experience itself. Obviously, you can do meeting requests so that people can set up a time to be able to follow up with you later, so that if you wanted to do a deeper dive with them. And any way that we can think about doing gamification, obviously, is a great way to be able to increase engagement with attendees too. So we always try to push that. You can also think about promotional items as a way to increase the experience as well. A lot of times it's a really nice opportunity to be able to create something tactile, to be able to create something that people can physically have after the experience is over. Obviously, you have to be a little bit careful based upon the type of brand that you're going to work with, or the type of company that you are. If it's a medical company, then obviously we want to follow all the appropriate pharma guidelines and sunshine rules, just to be able to make sure that we don't break any of those. But nevertheless, if you want to send home branded thank you gifts, if you want to think about how do you do raffles, how do you do promotional kits, how do you distribute literature by USB, there's a lot of really neat ways that we can think about how do you create something that has a physical, tactile nature to it. And then we've had a lot of clients actually come to us and request that we do smaller, more intimate gatherings, more intimate virtual experiences for them in a way that allows them to be able to tell a story still about their brand, but to be able to further a conversation in a little bit smaller of a group setting. So create an experience where maybe we're bringing in a mixologist to be able to teach a small group of VIPs how to make the perfect old fashioned. We can even go so far as to be able to send home box kits that incorporate all of the fixings to be able to make those types of mixed drinks, so that you can, when you get this, it's branded entirely, open it up, it incorporates all of the things that you're going to need to go through this virtual experience, and that really reinforces the idea that this brand is valued and committed to you. So you can do all kinds of things. We also had another company that came to us and said, I want to do a virtual cooking solution, where they brought in a pit master and they wanted to be able to teach people how to make the perfect steak. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can take this: celebrity guests, comedians, virtual escape rooms, even just going so far as to have game shows. There's a lot of flexibility and functionality there. There are some really cool ways that you can increase the enhanced solutions for this type of an environment. And then we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the physical interactions that can still happen as well. Being safe, obviously, in the realm of COVID-19, we want to be able to think about how we can, instead of creating macro engagement strategies where we bring a bunch of people into one overarching space, maybe there is a better opportunity for us to create a more intimate and small experiential solution that would think about micro engagement strategies. So could we do trailer activations, pop-up shops, road shows, any kind of outdoor activations? Are there ways that we can take a trailer like you see on the screen here and take that from city to city to city over the course of the next 6 or 9 months to be able to tell your story in an equally effective way? So there's a lot of opportunity to be able to engage solutions like that too. Even when the world goes back to the normal process, we still feel like there will be a number of different types of attendees who will be hesitant to travel for a number of different reasons. So we feel like these types of events, combining a physical solution with a virtual solution, even if you do a trade show, you might want to have a virtual solution that goes along with it to be able to enhance the opportunity for you to get better return. And that's what we have for you today. We're happy to continue the conversation down the line. If you have anything else that you want to chat about, please feel free to contact us, and we hope you're well. Thank you.